just a live stream on the web and social media and different sources. You can catch us in those ways. So this is a dangerous day. Fortunately for Northeast Kansas, we have a lot of clouds that have kept the temperature down somewhat. That doesn't mean we're not going to see tornadoes. We still have a high likelihood of seeing at least a few tornado warnings in our area. I would be more concerned if I saw temperatures close to 80 right now. If we were close to 80 degrees, I would be just all out worried, frankly. This is a significant risk, though. So here's what we have. The first high risk that's been issued for any part of Kansas since 2017. This area of purple, pink, purple, whichever color you call that one. But the last time we had a high risk that touched Kansas at all was back in 2017. So it goes off from what they call high to moderate to enhanced. So if you just use numbers for it, this is level 5 at the top, 4 to 5, 3 to 5 in Northeast Kansas. So this doesn't mean we won't see tornadoes. Doesn't mean we won't see severe weather. It just means that this area is the most primed for severe storms you're going to see probably in an entire year. So it's that bad to the south from Wichita to Oklahoma City. Northeast Kansas, this is probably the second worst it's been this year, as we have the enhanced risk over our area, plus the National Weather Service saying the 10% risk for tornadoes. Also, these black hash marks indicates, they're saying there's a high likelihood of having tornadoes, and the black lines indicate those tornadoes could be F2 to F5. There are plenty of times we have a 10% risk and no black hash marks. There are plenty of times we have the 5% risk and no hash marks. But we have 10% with the black marks on it. It means a significant number of tornadoes is possible, and they could be big. It just means this area near Wichita to Oklahoma City, just don't travel there today. Folks in that area have a very high significance of us seeing big tornadoes today in areas like Oklahoma City, possibly as far north as Wichita. We could see tornadoes that are big here as well. Please don't think that we don't, just we're not at the peak of the statistical risk, but these risk areas, not fences. There's no tornado that looks at the risk area and goes, well, I can't go outside of that. I mean, if you're near a high risk, that's dangerous. So as we get later in the evening, the severe wind is going to become a prevalent issue. So we could have 2 or 3 tornado warnings going at one time and also see widespread areas of 80-mile-per-hour winds. So the tornadoes are a problem for a small area when they happen. The wind gust problem could be over a big area. If you remember last summer, July and August, we had 4 different rounds of extreme wind, 80 miles per hour several times, and we were cleaning up branches. It seemed like forever. We could have one of those kind of evenings where we have a lot of branches down, possibly some damage to roofs and shingles. You could even lose windows when the hail is big and the winds are that strong. It'll bring the hail in from the side and do damage to windows. If the hail comes straight down, it damages your roof, obviously. If the hail comes along with an 80-mile-per-hour wind, then it comes in from the side, and that's why you can lose windows. This is just looking at Cloud County Community College. I'm not saying you're going to get that, but just pointing at the example here, since that's what I have in front of me, an actual building. But again, if the hail is coming straight down, if the winds are 20 miles per hour, it's going to hit the roof and beat it up. But if it's coming in from the side, again, that's an even bigger problem. The temperature in Concordia is 70 right now, 2.64. So check temperature across the rest of Northeast Kansas. We're all close to 70. The dew point values are not far behind. You can feel how humid it is out there, no doubt. Now, if we go back from Hayes to Garden City and Dodge City, look how much the dew point drops off. Extremely humid and not so much. The western part of the state, the air is very dry, and that dry line is part of what's setting off these dangerous storms. The other part of this that makes it just so high of a possibility of tornadoes is we have something called the negatively tilted trough at the jet stream level that happens once in a while, but it's not common to have it over and over again like we have lately. And basically it means that your trough is kind of pointed from Topeka to Montana. Usually the troughs are kind of straight up and down over our part of the nation, but lately we had a lot of negatively tilted troughs, and those tend to enhance the risk of seeing dangerous storms. So here's your monster line of storms right now. We have a tornado warning just south of Blue Hill, Nebraska. There's the radar, that's Blue Hill. The tornado warning just south of there. And there's a tornado warning right now in the north central Oklahoma. I'm not sure which county or town that is offhand. This is close to Great Bend. This storm had a tornado warning with it a few minutes ago, and now it's a severe thunderstorm warning. But this line we're looking at right here is the initial line that's going to be moving our way and producing severe weather and probably tornadoes. Now the line is also not a fence like I was mentioning with the risk areas. Just because we have this nice neat line doesn't mean that's where everything's going to form. We could have storms forming out ahead of this line. We could have storms forming just behind the line this evening and tonight. But the line that's in place right now is certainly the greatest concern immediately because it's just kind of what's ongoing. So there's the tornado warning right there, just southeast of Blue Hill, Nebraska. Concordia, you are the closest to the severe weather in northeast Kansas. Concordia, you really be watching the stuff coming up from Great Bend. That's probably the higher likelihood of seeing a storm hitting Concordia, Clay Center, and even Washington over the next hour or two is that stuff coming up from the southwest from Great Bend. I'm going to pan down to the south, and you'll see there are more storms down in Oklahoma. And again, this whole line is marching northeast. What you'll also notice about this is the storms are forming into cells. The atmosphere has to be a certain way for them to do this, where they go out and kind of individual cell. There's a storm cell. Here's a storm cell down here. Another one up in Mitchell and Jewell counties as well. But if it lines up as one nice, neat line where it's all connected, you get embedded tornadoes sometimes, but it's not common for them to form tornadoes. When they set individual cells like this, the tornadoes are more likely. So it's something we have to be very aware of this evening. So by 7 p.m., certainly between 6 and 7, we get storms in Concordia, Washington, Clay Center. Topeka, probably not seeing any of it yet. Manhattan, you may hold off until 8 or 9. As I mentioned, we could see storms developing out ahead of the line. And if I pan down to the south, and I think the computer model is actually picking up one of those. There you go. There's a storm cell popping up on the computer model. I'm not saying that will be a storm for sure popping up right here. That's going to be, that's Butler County is what it's showing. So right at 7 p.m., the computer model is exactly showing a supercell popping up ahead of the line. So don't expect exactly that, but expect that to be a possibility in the pattern to see isolated supercells popping up ahead of the line. So just don't time out the line and think that's it. We have to be aware that stuff along this line could produce severe weather and even a tornado kind of really at any time between now and 11 p.m. So, you know, just be weather aware this evening, wherever you are. There's 8 p.m. Now we're most likely Marysville, Manhattan, Council Grove. 8 or 9, Topeka, Holton, Hiawatha, Emporia. About 10 or 11, we get to Lawrence, Oskaloosa. By midnight, this is gone. And tomorrow's a dry day, calm with highs in the 70s. Wind's not as strong. Should be a beautiful day tomorrow. But this evening, again, we have a tornado risk going until 11 p.m. for all the WIBW viewing area. We're sunny and mild tomorrow, highs near 80, with winds out of the west 10 to 15, but gusting at times as high as 30 miles per hour. So I'm going to go back to these graphics. So if you jumped in a few minutes into us doing this, I'm going to go back to the graphics and explain the stuff again, and then we'll go. I'll end the stream here at 4:45. We don't have any tornado warnings right now in northeast Kansas. There's no severe storm warnings or storms at this point, but just kind of give you an idea of what's coming. And later this evening, we'll have a stream at 5:40 or 5:30 between shows too. And then after the 6 o'clock show, around 6:40, I'll start a live stream. By that time, we'll probably go all night. Not all night, but until 10 or 11. Unless we have tornado warnings, then we'll keep going. So that's what we're going to do. We have several opportunities to watch this, cover this evening. So severe weather risk for today. The Storm Prediction Center has a high risk for parts of Kansas. This is the first time since 2017 to have a high risk for any part of Kansas. These come out, some years we don't have a high risk in the entire nation. I've seen other years we have 3 or 4 of these, but it's a really rare thing to see. This is the first time in 7 years that any part of Kansas was in a high risk for severe weather. It includes Oklahoma City to Wichita. Topeka, we're in the enhanced risk, 3 out of 5. The 4 out of 5 goes from Wichita to Emporia. That's a significant risk as well. So don't think that just because the bullseye, the worst of the South, please don't think that we're fine or it's going around us. It just means they have a high likelihood of a long track, big tornado that will do a lot of damage most likely in the area that's shaded in purple. For northeast Kansas, we're in the 10% tornado risk with the black hash marks, which means large tornadoes are possible. Our temperature is still near 70 degrees. If it was hotter, if it was 78 or 82 or something like that, we'd probably have the high risk here as well. There's enough dynamics and moisture in place that we still could see a big tornado. We certainly have a significant risk of damaging winds. This map is for winds could be 80 miles per hour over northeast Kansas, and we're really in the middle of that risk area. The higher probability is just ahead of the tornado risk, and why that is, why is the wind risk over here and the tornado risk over here? The reason is these storms will form tornadic this afternoon, early evening, and as the sun goes down, you tend to see them diminish a bit and then just blast out wind as the tornado features go away, or they become more linear. Either way, you don't tend to see the widespread winds like this with the supercells and the tornadoes. You tend to see the wind just downstream where the bigger tornado risk is. Either way, 80 mile per hour winds around here, northeast Kansas, being fairly common, can certainly break a lot of things. You'll have some power outages and that kind of thing. Make sure your flashlights have batteries in them. Make sure your weather radio has batteries in it. Just make sure you're ready for a power outage. That's a real possibility this evening, really anywhere in northeast Kansas. Even if you don't get near a tornado warning, you can still have power outages this evening just about anywhere. Looking out from Clyde County Community College, this is the area closest to seeing storms, the WIBW viewing region right now. And the storm that's actually just off to your west is going up into Nebraska. The storms are coming toward Concordia look like they're closer to Great Bend at this point to me. But either way, you're going to see severe weather most likely within the next hour, maybe 2 hours. Could be as late as 6:30 or so before Concordia gets in it. The rest of the area will see it later. So temperatures now are warming even more. Kansas City 74, Melbourne 76, Burlington 74. These temperatures can continue to warm. If we start getting the upper 70s, we become even more unstable. The risk of seeing dangerous storms, tornadoes is even higher. The moisture is in place. If you stepped outside, you can feel the moisture very easily. Dew points in the mid and upper 60s is certainly enough to get wild storms going. Out in western Kansas, this is the dry line. We go from very humid to air that feels like, it feels like early March maybe. It's just much, much drier air, the kind of stuff where you're reaching for the chapstick over and over again. But over here, it's more of that kind of muggy rainforest feel almost, and it kind of feels like storms could arrive. They will. So this is tornado watch going to 11 p.m. for all of northeast Kansas. It doesn't include Kansas City yet, but it will later on tonight. As we look at the actual storms in progress, we have tornado warnings in Nebraska and Oklahoma, and in between, you can see individual storm cells dotting the map. If they line up as just one nice, neat line, they tend to make more wind damage. If they stay out individual like this kind of day, that's the kind of stuff that tends to produce a bigger tornado threat. So again, these storms are developing in central Kansas, moving our way. And this line is not it. That's not going to be the only storms that form. There could be storms that form just out ahead of this or even just behind it. See, the dry line is actually just behind a lot of these storms, so more storms can form behind this first round. I don't expect to see 5 waves of this, but I do expect to see at least a couple of isolated supercells just ahead of the line and possibly a second round developing after the first one moves through. So down to the south, Supercast. This is a computer model. It's showing in a couple of hours, 2 hours, 19 minutes from now, it's got a supercell developing over Butler County. So what computer models telling us is, yes, we have the nice organized line of supercells here, but also isolated supercells could pop up out ahead of the line, and these could also rotate and cause problems. So putting that into motion, you'll see it kind of eats it up at 8 o'clock. So that's something that can happen. We'll see these isolated cells popping up outside the line most likely that could become severe tornadic. You got to watch not just the line but out ahead of it. So 8 o'clock, we're in Marysville, Manhattan, Council Grove for the more organized line of storms. That's how the computer model sees it right now. Around 9 o'clock, Topeka, to get past 10 o'clock is Oskaloosa and Lawrence. So that, again, this computer model, it's not exact. It could be off an hour or an hour and a half. But anyway, you are in a tornado watch from now all the way until 11 p.m. when this is expected to exit the area. So again, the National Weather Service mentioning that large tornadoes are possible. We could see a long track tornado, that's a possibility. If we see anything developing in the Wichita area coming up the turnpike or coming from the southwest, we'll have to watch those very carefully and see if they maintain the strength to come into the WIBW viewing area. Tomorrow's a beautiful day. We are in the upper 70s, near 80, lower humidity, and really a nice day. So I'm going to wrap this up here, but there's one more mention that this is the first time in 7 years the National Weather Service has put a high risk of severe weather anywhere in Kansas. So this is not something that happens all the time. This is 7 years ago was the last time we had one of these. The high risk goes from just about Wichita to Oklahoma City. Northeast Kansas, we are in a very significant risk as well. Don't think the bullseye is just the worst of it. We've had plenty of severe weather the last 7 years. None of those happened in a high risk. So anything in the last 7 years that we've had hasn't lived up to the standards of this, at least on computer models. This is a dangerous weather setup. We are likely to have severe weather and tornado warnings this evening, and we may be cleaning up with from debris tomorrow. So be extra cautious today. Wherever you are, make sure you have a way to get warnings. We're going to be live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, WIBW.com. You can see the streams, have links to it from our weather app, the news app as well. We'll be on TV frequently as well. We're not going to make a secret of what's going on. You'll see us. Just make sure that you're paying attention to the weather wherever you might be. We're going to get ready for the 5 o'clock newscast right now. Again, no storms in progress in northeast Kansas at this time. We're doing the live stream about 5:30 to show you what's up, and if we have a tornado warning, we'll start streaming and keep going until it's done. So stay with us. We'll keep you safe and informed.